Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is Mucking Fun Day. Did you have a good weekend? You better have, because you did everything for you on Friday, so you don't have to worry about that stuff. Everything else should be going great in your life because we're here. So let's go ahead and start the Before Coffee, the father and daughter comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where we look at the news 10 to 15 minutes before we start. Haven't had any caffeine. So let's read those headlines and get those stories, shall we? Today on Before Coffee, strike action closes schools in John Swinney's and tens of thousands of Georgians rally in support of EU Ascension ahead of upcoming parliamentary election.
In America, we have two tragedies: a ferry dock collapse and in Georgia, and a helicopter crash in Houston.
Moldova begins to commit to join the EU in a marginal vote as president claims foreign interference.
And not much mucking fun for King Charles as he gets heckled by Indigenous Australian senator.
Texas condemned for placing book on colonization in library's fiction section.
And it's National Back to the Future Day! So McFly, you need to straighten out your act. It's October 21st, 2024 on Before Coffee.
Another Monday, down on the books. Let's get it started so we can get it over with. We've got a lot of news coming out of Europe with strikes and rallies and EU Ascension. But first, let's start with Scotland from The National Scotland by Ross Hunter. Schools in the constituency of First Minister John Swinney closed this week due to ongoing action. Trade union Unision called the action targeting Swinney's feet over the next 2 weeks over members working in non-teaching roles in schools rejected a offer from authority body COSLA. COSLA, that's its name, not coleslaw, but COSLA. The deal would have increased pay up by 60p, that's pence, an hour, or 3.6%, whichever was higher. It was accepted by two other main unions, and the council voted to impose the on staff. In a statement published on its website, Perth and Kinross Council said all primary school, nurseries, and intensive support settings, secondary school, to be closed today. The council was unable to carry out risk assessment of primary school holidays, meaning facilities could not open. The council said schools could open later this week, but the situation will likely remain fluid for the action. It may change for individuals on a day-to-day basis. The First Minister has previously described the targeting of a state as unacceptable. There was no justification for it. He added there is no more money for Scottish government to hand local. Well, I don't start taxing more. I don't know. The problem with Scotland is there aren't a lot of people. Only 10% of the entire British Isles population is Scotland. But that's the thing, right? If Scotland is to be part of the UK, maybe they should get some, but maybe not. They do get money from other taxes. Still just don't have enough. I mean, it's a problem globally. Not making money. Everyone wants to hire how to be a human part of society, but not going to give you money. Colette Hunter, Unision's local government committee here in Scotland, previously accused Swinney of stations against hard-working council staff that, as minister, has the power and the means to resolve the dispute and avoid school. Instead, their teachers got a pay rise of 4.6%, NHS staff received 5.5%, MSP 0.7%, some counselors got a pay rise of 13.8%. Yeah, we get it, you're running the country. You couldn't be here without teachers. Council staff are being left behind again. They have every justification in pressuring the Scottish government to find a... I give everyone a pay rise, just do it evenly all around. That's what I say. Everyone gets a pay rise! 10%, you're welcome. Anyways. That's our Scotland news. Very short and sweet. Well, maybe not so sweet. In Georgian news, Georgia, the country, there has been a rally on Sunday that held in support of joining union, held in Tribune Square on the 20th, ahead of the upcoming parliamentary elections for October 6th, which would be, I think, probably next week. Yeah, next Saturday. On the attendant by Dimitro Basma. Georgia, the European March, brought what appeared to be several tens of thousands of protesters of Tbilisi media video show. Protesters waved EU and Georgian flags while singing the country's national anthem. President Salom Gurbanlik, vocal opponent of the party, participated in the rally, urging protesters to vote for pro-European parties during the election. Gurbanlik said the protest that Georgia has already won and will regenerate with Europe. I'll get this. Daura Bikvili also addressed President Vladimir in her speech, stating that Zelensky is fighting for Georgia as well, of course, and we will enter the European Union together. Georgia received candidate status alongside Ukraine. Questions surrounding Georgia's candidacy continue to swirl as the ruling Georgian Dream Party continues its relationship with Russia. Concerns about Georgian democracy have reached fever after ruling Georgian Dream Party passed the Agents Law, which requires organizations that risk foreign funding as full and mirrors repressive Russian legislation to crack down on Kremlin critics. Talked about this probably like 2 weeks ago or maybe even a month ago. I officially passed this law, and Groblick also yelled about it then. Concerns about Georgia's democracy have reached a fever pitch after the party passed the foreign law, which requires organizing foreign funding to be limited and mirrors repressive Russian legislation to crack down on Kremlin critics. The de facto leader of the ruling party, oligarch, I love how there's an oligarch running it. That's already a red flag for me. Bidzina Ivanishvili, part of his party's larger rapprochement, Russia apologized for Russia's 2008 war against the country. Western officials have sanctioned having a Moscow formally in processes 10th as Russian President Vladimir issued a presidential decree banning free entry for working Russian dictator. I don't know why we still not a president. Just because you have people vote for you, not a dictator. But those are my two stories. Georgia rally looks successful, so hopefully on October 6th, show that they don't want to be tied with Russia, become part of the new neo-Russia federalist party or whatever, where they just agglomeration of states that just want to listen to what Putin says, and I don't know, like, sorry, I don't know. I'm just saying, okay, the only reason I have anything against countries like Russia and Belarus, their censorship laws, like, against gay people or anything gay. If there's like music that is about being, it will block your video, right? And it's kind of sad that you have to censor. I'm definitely a free believer in the freedom of information of censoring the internet. Like, ugh. Come on, guys. Don't let people know there's gay people out there. They might actually like themselves. But those are my two stories on hopefully change coming. Scotland, Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have two tragedies to cover. Update. The first one will be the Georgia dock collapse. This is from Associated Press. At least 7 dead after ferry dock gangway collapse on Georgia's Sapelo Island. Georgia authorities said Sunday they are investigating the catastrophic failure of a dock gangway that collapsed and killed 7 on Sapelo Island, where crowds had gathered for a fall celebration by the island's tiny Gula Geechee community of black slave descendants. It is a structural failure. There should be very, very little maintenance to an aluminum gangway like that, but we'll see what the investigation unfolds. Georgia Department of Natural Resources Commissioner Walter Rabon said in a news conference. The gangway was installed in 2021, authorities said. Rabon said the 3 people remained hospitalized in critical condition from Sunday's collapse. Rabon said upwards of 40 people were on the gangway when the catastrophic failure occurred. At least 20 people fell into the water. The gangway connected to the outer dock where people board the ferry to another dock on shore. None of the 7 people killed were residents of the island, Rabon said. 8 people were taken to hospitals. At least 6 of them were initially reported Saturday to have critical injuries. The ferry dock was rebuilt after Georgia officials in October 2020 settled in a federal lawsuit by residents of the tiny community of Hog Hummock, who complained that the state-operated ferry boats had docks they rely upon to travel between Sapelo Island and mainland failed to meet federal accessibility standards for people with disability. The state agreed to demolish and replace the outdated docks while updating ferry boats to accommodate people in wheelchairs and those with impaired hearing. The state also paid cash settlement of $750,000. So as the investigation continues, they will find out, I suppose, why the thing was either not maintained properly or not maintained at all. But it seems like a simple thing to maintain. Little ferry dock thing that rolls out, that folds out, and people walk on it. A gangplank to get onto a boat, basically. And it just collapsed with 40 people on it. So probably too much capacity on a small little thing. So again, people not thinking of safety, thinking of only themselves. That's what I predict. Probably wasn't even any structural failure. There's probably too many people on it. That's my guess.
You know how elevators have that must not exceed its maximum. That's why they say that, because
it's not an elevator. It's just an aluminum little thing that.
No, I'm just saying an example. There's an example of pieces.
Oh, I can't really hear you that well. It sounds like you're way down in the hall and you're talking into a sock. That's how well I hear you. So I don't know why, but either you got to get close to your microphone to me or something.
I'm literally on my mic. Something on the side. Because when I hear my audio, I sound fine.
Yeah. I mean the microphone that goes up the Discord.
Same microphone.
Okay. Well, whatever reason, I don't hear you very well. Now, another tragic news. This is in Houston, Texas, from Houston Chronicle, John Wayne Ferguson and Nicole Hensley. Multiple people killed as a helicopter crashes in the Houston radio tower. So another unnecessary tragedy. Probably hit the guy lines, I'm guessing. And of course, helicopters flying at night don't see lines.
No.
You don't see those things. Anyway, a helicopter crashed into a radio tower Sunday night in Houston, plunging into the ground, apparently causing fire, authorities said. A helicopter crashed on Sunday night in Houston, killing several people, including a child, as it caught fire and plunged to the ground, authorities said. The crash happened around 7:45 p.m., which is after dark, near Engilkey Street and Ennis Street off Navigation Boulevard. Some witnesses had watched the helicopter burst into fireballs that crashed into the tower. Watched Federal Communications Commission records show about 1,000 feet high. Firefighters at the nearby station 17 on navigation heard the crash and were among the first to respond. Mayor John Whitmer said during a news conference at the scene. Police and fire officials made grim requests urging nearby residents to look for fallen helicopter parts, but also human remains in their yards in the morning. If found, residents should call not to touch any debris they might find in the morning. Whitmire said it should take I can't speak this morning. Whitmire said it should take several days to clear the debris and complete the investigation of the scene, which is off limits to the public. The crash happened after sunset in a rapidly changing area of East Downtown in the Second Ward. A mix of single-family homes and new apartment buildings have popped up from recently empty fields near the crash site. Officials released few details about the helicopter, which said there was a private aircraft. The helicopter had taken off from Ellington Field in southeast Houston earlier in the evening. Officials said it was unclear where it might have been heading. Marco Perez said the crash from an outdoor concert at the nearby Our Lady of Marco Perez saw the crash from an outdoor concert at nearby Our Lady of Guadalupe Church on navigation. We saw this bright light flying toward the church, Perez said. That light turned into an orange-red fireball. Concertgoers gasped as they heard the shattering of metal, he said. The band stopped because everyone was screaming. He and his grandson walked close to the wreckage after firefighters put out most of the flames. He saw a pile of metal where the tower had stood. It was spaghetti, Perez said. The chaotic moment was seen across the bayou of East River 9 Golf Course, where Dominique Davis was playing hacky sack. She saw the tower came crashing down very quickly. FCC records show the tower is licensed at Deer Park. In Deer Park, the Univision's KMA-FM, and it features Latin pop. Flames were visible in early photos of the crash site. The city officials said the damage was isolated to the tower. Whitmer said the damage could have been worse. Nothing that there was gas tanks noting. It should say noting. But their typo here, not my misspeaking. It says nothing instead of noting. Anyway, let's read that sentence again. Whitmer said the damage could have been worse, noting that there were gas tanks being stored not far from the crash site. Federal Aviation Administration has been notified of the crash. There's your story on a fiery crash of a helicopter, and I'm going to go ahead down on a limb and say it's a 1,000-foot tower. It had several guy lines up to 12 to 15 to 27 perhaps guy lines. It pulled the tower in place at various heights, and all you got to do is hit one of those at the top, and it's over. It's over for the tower, and of course helicopters really don't steer very good out of a crash, so yeah. There's your story, and 2 tragedies in the United States. Hopefully some good news from you. Back to you.
Oh boy, do I have some good news for you. We've got some news about Moldova. While Georgia is arguing in terms of having protests about joining, Moldova has committed to it. That's right. On independent.co by Tom Watling. A little more than half of Moldovans have voted in favor of committing themselves to join the European Union, winning a razor-thin majority amid concerns of election meddling. Yeah, I wonder who would be trying to meddle in them not joining the EU. Can't think of anybody. Maybe somebody that rhymes with get it. After nearly 99% of votes were counted in Sunday's referendum, which asked voters to choose whether to enshrine the country's constitution on a path towards the EU, the yes vote crept into first place with 50.18% of total 1.4 million ballots cast, according to the Central Electoral Commission. Only hours earlier, President Mai Sandu also engaged in an election runoff with former Prosecutor General Alexander Stoyanogolo, said that there was clear evidence of meddling. In a statement to Moldovans, Sandu said there was clear evidence that criminal groups working together with foreign forces hostile to Moldova's interests sought to buy off 300,000 votes, something she called fraud of unprecedented scale. Their objective was to undermine a democratic process. Their intention was to spread fear and panic in society. We are waiting for the final results. We'll respond with firm decisions. Partial results revealed around the same time Sandu was speaking had shown 57% unwilling to commit to the EU. Analysis said ballots from the largely pro-EU diaspora were counted, giving the Yes campaign a last-minute push. While far from the major success, results worked in favor of the incumbent pro-EU President Sandu, who was running in Sunday's elections to post. Early on Monday, he had 41.9% of the vote, with 97.7% of votes counted. The referendum and the presidential vote are seen as a test of deeply divided nations' unwillingness to keep close ties with Russia or to embark in the process of the EU. Moldova, a former republic with a population of about 2.5 million, applied to join the EU in the wake of Russia's the neighboring Ukraine and was granted status that summer, alongside Ukraine. Brussels agreed to start membership negotiations. The vote was an opportunity for the public to have a say in any possible Ascension bloc. Sandu's main rival in the presidential election, Oglo, had 32, setting the stage for a November 3rd runoff in the poor ex-Southeast. Wow. And throw in stray insults out here. Moldova is a poor ex-Soviet Southeast Europe. Yeah, why did you have to say that? Just say Moldova. Anyways, vote goes through a runoff in candidate clear mark. Run up to the vote was overshadowed by a slew of allegations of election methods by fugitive type John Shore, who lives in Russia. Moscow has denied interviews, while Mr. Shore denied wrongdoing. Yeah, of course. Yet again, nobody's gonna say, you know what, I did it. Right. I manipulated the election. Earlier this month, Moldovan police accused Mr. Shore, who was jailed in absentia for fraud and theft, trying to pay off a network of 100,000 voters to vote no to support our candidate at the election. Shore has openly offered on social media Moldovans to vote in a certain. Said that is a legitimate use of money that he not. Election meddling. In the early hours of Monday, which is October 1st, right? Yes. Said Moldovans had voted against the referenda. Today, I congratulate you. Lost the battle. Addressing Ms. Sandu as Maya. After the updated result was published, the Kremlin claimed that, oh, this is wrong. No. How are we supposed to manipulate you? Our world domination. That's not what they said. They claimed that the increase in votes in favor of the EU was hard to explain. Kremlin spokesperson Peskov said, "What we see is hard to explain rate of increase in favor of the referendum participants favored it. Vote Moldova down online. Now said a program in Russia to train Moldovans to press and open criminal cases against allies." So, what really happened? I don't know, and maybe we'll find out again 20 years from now when they'll go, yep, it was me, I did that, or no, it was that guy, he did this. Yeah, I really wonder, actually no, I don't wonder, I know, why people want to join Russia, or be friends with Russia. That Russians like being part of Russia. That's because they're oligarchs, they have a lot of money, and they're free to do whatever they want because they have money. Those are the people who want countries like Russia because they want to continue having free reign to do whatever the hell they want because they have a lot of money. Which doesn't help the poor Moldovans that are living in the country. It only makes their lives worse. So, I can understand why rich people want to join, but I did not understand or don't have any money. Yeah, Russia, woohoo! They're gonna not care about me. Yay! Let's be real here.
Yeah,
what is the best? But give a bunch of poor countries money that they can, I don't know.
This will be the time. This will be the time that rich people start giving away their money to poor people.
Yeah, right.
This will be the time. Yeah.
Totally. Once we join Russia, we're going to share all our money with everyone.
Well, you can be like Elon Musk, who's literally trying to bribe voters, which is illegal. But again,
no, that's what I'm saying. That's what he did.
Who cares about laws?
Legitimately said on Twitter, I will pay people to vote anti-EU in this election. He said that on Saturday. Yep. So he's doing exactly what. Yeah, I'll give you money if you convince your entire family to vote anti-EU in Russia. I'll give you money.
Musk was giving $47 to people to go out and canvass for Trump without having them prove that they did anything. So basically, send them money. They fill out a list of addresses they visited without even leaving the house and just get their money. Just go for it. Yep, I do shit, and I don't have to prove I did anything. So Musk is a moron.
That's my story.
Morons with money. Most dangerous thing in the world. Morons with money. Speaking of morons with money, let's talk about the royal family of England. Yeah, great segue. As we talk about King Charles III visit to Australia. It's from BBC.com, so we get it straight from the official government supported press of England, the BBC. Katie Watson and Daniela Ralph. You're not my king! Shouted Australian politician. King Charles faced shouts of "You're not my king" from an independent senator just after he finished an address at Australia's Parliament House on the second official day of his engagements in the country. Lydia Thorpe, an Aboriginal Australian woman, interrupted the ceremony in the city of Canberra by shouting for about a minute before she was escorted away by security. After making claims of genocide against our people, she could be heard yelling, "This is not your land. You are not my king." But Aboriginal elder Auntie Violet Sheridan, who had earlier welcomed the king and queen, said Thorpe's protest was disrespectful, adding, "She does not speak for me."
Good. He is being disrespectful on purpose.
First time.
Hello? Like, you can't dismiss it just as disrespectful.
King Charles is in Australia for the first time since becoming head of state in September 22. The ceremony concluded without any reference to the incident, and the royal couple proceeded to meet hundreds of people who had waited outside to greet them. Australia is a Commonwealth country where the king serves as the head of state, but recently there has been debate about removing the monarch from the role. Thorpe, who is an independent senator from Victoria, is among those who have advocated for a treaty between Australia's government and its first inhabitants. Australia is the only ex-British colony without one, and many Aboriginal and Torres Islander people emphasize that they never ceded their sovereignty or land to the Crown. It's true. You didn't do any of this stuff. You just decided it was yours. After her protest, Thorpe told the BBC she had wanted to send a clear message to the king. To be a sovereign, you have to be of the land, she said. He is not of this land. She said the king needed to instruct the parliament to discuss a peace treaty with the 5 First Peoples. We can lead that, we can do that, we can be a better country, but we cannot bow to a colonizer whose ancestors he spoke about in there are responsible for mass murder and mass genocide. Thorpe, who is wearing a traditional possum skin cloak, described the late Queen Elizabeth II as colonizing and was made to repeat her oath when she was sworn in as a senator in 2022. This has been a long-held debate on how to tackle the glaring disparities between First Nations people and the wider population, including poor health, wealth, and educational outcomes, and greater incarceration rates. This seems to be a theme for Indigenous people worldwide. We don't understand them, so let's throw them in jail. Last year, a referendum on giving greater political rights and recognition to Indigenous people, known as The Voice, was resoundingly rejected. Thorpe was elected to Parliament as a member of the Greens, but left the party over its support of for The Voice and has staged attention-grabbing protests in the past. And my computer needs to continue to scroll. There it goes. Thorpe interrupted the ceremony before being escorted out by security. Despite the protests, many others were happy to see the royals, with people queuing outside Parliament House all morning in the punishing Canberra sun, waving Australian flags. Jamie Karpas, 20, said she did not realize the royal couple were visiting on Monday, adding, "As someone who saw Harry and Meghan the last time they were here, I'm very excited. I think the royal family are part of the Australian culture. They're a big part of our lives." Meanwhile, C.J. Adams, a U.S. Australian student at Australian National University, said, "He's the head of the state of the British Empire, right? You've got to take experience you can get while in Canberra." A small number of dissenters had also gathered on the lawn in the front of the Parliament House building. The royal visit to Canberra was always going to touch Australia's history with its Indigenous people, but Thorpe's intervention meant the King and Queen faced it more directly than initially planned. The King and Queen had arrived in Canberra earlier in the day and were greeted by a reception line of politicians, school children, and Ngunnawal elder Auntie Serena Williams. Serena Williams, interesting name. And a representative of the Indigenous people. Not the tennis player, but the elder Auntie Serena Williams.
Yes.
They were given traditional welcome to the Great Hall of Canberra's Parliament House to the sound of a didgeridoo. The King spoke about Indigenous communities and what he had learned from them, saying his own experience had been shaped and strengthened by such traditional wisdom. Many visits to Australia have witnessed the courage and hope that have guided the nation's long and sometimes difficult journey towards reconciliation, he said. But as he sat down, the shouts of Thorpe's protests rang around the hall. Her intervention was criticized by Auntie Sheridan, the Aboriginal leader who delivered part of the official welcome speech for the King and Queen of Parliament Hall. She told the BBC, "The King's not well. He's going through chemo and he didn't need this."
Okay.
I'm sorry. Well,
all right.
He's not well. He's also really freaking old. How about that?
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna just
oh my
be
God.
nice to him because he's
you
old.
should feel bad for the
Be
rich
nice
kid.
To the rich.
Life
He's
has basically been
suffering.
fed through him on a silver platter, and he's
He's
cancer.
precious.
Oh, sorry.
He's precious like a butterfly. I surely appreciate him visiting here, and maybe the last time he comes. Heaps of people share my thoughts. Buckingham Palace has made no official comment on Thorpe's protests, instead focusing on the crowds who had turned up to see the King and Queen in Canberra. A palace source said that the royal couple were deeply touched by the many thousands that have turned out to support him. For decades, Australia has debated whether to break from its monarchy and become a republic. In 1999, the question was put to the public in a referendum, which is the only way to change the nation's constitution, and resoundingly defeated. Polls suggest support for the movement has grown since then, and country's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who shook the King's hand just before the senator's intervention, is a long-term Republican. However, Albanese's government has ruled out holding a second vote on the issue anytime soon, following the unsuccessful referendum on Indigenous recognition last year. Longtime Republican just means he's in favor of, Australia being its own republic. That's what that means. Not like he's joined Donald Trump's political party or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, King Charles' visit in a year in which has been receiving cancer treatment is his first to Australia since succeeding his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. Because of his health, the tour is shorter than previous royal visits. A lighter moment came earlier in the day when the King petted an alpaca who was wearing a small crown when he stopped to talk to members of the public after a visit to Canberra's War Memorial. The alpaca apparently sneezed on him. The royal couple also planted trees at Government House before the King, a long-term environmentalist, visited the National Bushfire Behavior Research Laboratory. The King and Queen planted trees at the grounds of Government House in Canberra. The King and Queen were earlier welcomed with traditional dance. Hundreds of people waited in the sun to greet the King. There's your story as I read captions from pictures.
Yeah.
So King Charles is not necessarily a bad guy. You can't blame all of the British Empire's failures on one king. But he's the guy there now, and that comes with the territory.
For me, he's not been a great person. Okay, that's all I gotta say. The person that is him, not great. So.
Yeah, the seat that he holds has been very oppressive and colonizing, but King Charles himself not necessarily responsible for it, right? He's not like, oh my God, he's out there murdering people with his bare hands. No, that's not happening. But again, we protest because we are pissed off that we don't get our own human rights. Back to you.
All right. From
by the way, I sent you a video clip.
Okay.
Very short. All right. Very short.
All right. From Australian kings to Texas and books. I'm sure everyone who knows anything about Texas, they like to do a little censorship, you know, tiny little bit of reality, not in the reality of everyone else's understanding of how the world works. And this is from The Guardian by Richard Luscombe. Anti-censorship advocates have joined book publisher Penguin Random House in condemning a Texas county that reclassified an account of European settlers' colonization of the Americans as fiction. That's right. All those white Americans out there, it just popped out of the ground. You're like, wow, a country. Let's live here. Burr in Montgomery County follows the decision by a citizens panel at the behest of right-wing activists, colonization, and the Wampanoag story by Linda, the fiction libraries. The book aims to present young readers a historic look from the perspective of colonization in England, according to PN America, nonprofit advocacy group for. But they're gonna argue, well, it's not a real account of colonization. It's a fake account of what it was like. Hence, it's fiction. Checkmate, liberals. It was published in September 2020 as one of 5 titles in Penguin Random House's of similarly themed stories intended for other books, including. They're also going to put a section on. No, they loved working for us. And the African American story by Patricia Dockery and by Ashley. Claim this book is our perspective to the statement from Debbie Reed, founder of American. Books like Colonization and the Wampanoag are important to Native kids because they affirm our existence as Native in the present day. They're also for non-Native kids because those kids are being shaped by the information in books. The country is better off. We all know the history in a more informed way. The Houston Public Library and Congress recognize it as a work of non-fiction, according to San Antonio Current newspaper. The decision to reclassify the book was made without the input of any librarian. The Current reported. Yeah, well, of course. Because librarians live in reality, these guys do not. It sparked outrage when the Citizens Reviewed panel approved the reclassification after a challenge in September by a resident of the East Texas County. Montgomery officials, following a national trend, bowed to pressure from conservatives to set up a mechanism to ban books. That's already a warning sign. You shouldn't be banning books. Certain members of the public found objectionable. Yeah, I can just go over there and say, I don't like this book. And they say, oh, well, one person doesn't like it. We got to ban it. According to Texas Freedom to Read Project, the committee was originally intended to be empowered to assess books considered to be sexually explicit, but it extended its purview to history and culture and understanding how the world works. The project, after filing a public information request to learn which books had been challenged, launched a petition that has so far amassed more than 34,000 signatures. The demanding commissioners reinstate the book to its rightful home in the juvenile nonfiction collection of the Montgomery County Memorial Public Library. As Texan parents, we object to the actions taken by the Citizens Review Committee to reclassify a nonfiction book to fiction, Ann Rusty, the group's co-founder, said. If this decision is allowed to stand, what will stop the elected officials or their politically appointed surrogates from reclassifying other non-fiction books that contain perspective, facts, or ideas that don't like or disagree with? The Montgomery Commission did not immediately respond to a request for comment. According to PEN America, Texas is the second in the nation in book banning, with 1,567 titles removed between July 2021 and December 2023. Only Florida, with 5,000, has banned more. Wow, Florida, I hope you're proud of that. A member of the Texas Indigenous Council, Antonio Diaz, told The Current that the state had a long history of whitewashing Indigenous history. While it's upsetting that any government entity would allow individuals to exercise such a bigoted, biased policy, it's not a surprise in Texas, he said. Racism abounds. Yeah, unfortunately, somebody who grew up near there has to agree. Texas is just full of hypocrites, because Texas was one of the, basically, it was part of Mexico. And that's what the Alamo was. The Alamo was a bunch of racists trying to kick the Mexicans out of a place they probably lived for generations. And then, of course, they're probably whitewashing that too. No, we didn't do that. They just left. They just went home. They were home. Texas is where they belonged before it was even called Texas. Maybe it was, I don't know if Texas was called Texas before. Because it's Tejas. It's already a Mexican word.
Tejas.
Like
Texas silence.
the people, people living in a place that is called Texas, and they're like, why are there Mexicans here? It's right there, dude. But yeah, Texans are racist. Surprise! And it's not just the people living there, but also the government there. Sorry you had to find out this way.
This was part of Mexico in 1838. There's a county in Texas called Bexar County. You know, it's spelled Bexar. That's where San Antonio is. In Bexar County, there's an X in the middle of it.
Yeah.
They don't pronounce that X, but they pronounce the one in Texas.
But that's my culture news. On to this day in history.
Alrighty, this day in history. On this day in October 31st, 1797, one of the first frigates. Frigate. I always want to say frigate on a Monday, don't you? Anyway, one of the first frigates built in the U.S. Navy, the Constitution, also known as Old Ironside, still exists to this day, was launched in Boston. So happy, I guess, launching day to Old Ironsides. 1797. 1805. A fleet of 33 ships, 18 French and 15 Spanish, under Admiral Pierre Charles Jean-Baptiste Sylvestre de Villeneuve, whose name is longer than most stories I read today, fought and was defeated by a British fleet of 27 ships under Admiral Horatio Nelson in the Battle of Trafalgar. Combat was waged west
the
of
famous
Cape
battle.
Trafalgar, Spain.
That's what Trafalgar Square is probably named after.
Probably made Admiral Nelson famous, right? Anyway, there's your story on that. 1805, this day in history, that Spanish admiral with the 14 names. 1833, Swedish chemist, engineer, Australian. Start again. 1833, Swedish chemist, engineer, and industrialist Alfred Nobel invented dynamite and other more powerful explosives, and also founded the Nobel Prizes, was born in Stockholm. So happy birthday, Alfred Nobel! Invented dynamite, felt really bad about that, and decided to create the Nobel Peace Prize, among the other Nobel Prizes. 1907, Franz Leher's operetta The Merry Widow opened in New York City. I was not there for that. 1940, American novelist Ernest Hemingway published his classic novel For Whom the Bell Tolls. It was later adapted into an acclaimed film. In 1959, the Guggenheim Museum, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, not George Costanza, opened in New York City. That's an episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza pretended to be an architect, and he said, I designed the Guggenheim. But no, it wasn't. It was Frank Lloyd Wright, the most famous architect in history, designed the Guggenheim. 1960, John F. Kennedy and Richard F. Nixon, let's call him Richard Nixon. F is for fuckhead. Debated it for the fourth and final time in the 1960 U.S. presidential election. It's Richard Milhouse Nixon, Richard M. Nixon. And the last Kennedy-Nixon debate took place in this day in 1960. 1964, the American musical film My Fair Lady, starring Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn, had its world premiere and later won 8 Academy Awards, including that for Best Picture. Audrey Hepburn. 2012, American politician and liberal activist George McGovern passed away at the age of 90. He ran unsuccessfully as a reformist Democratic challenger in the 1972 presidential race against incumbent Richard M. Nixon, who we mentioned earlier. George McGovern, also a decorated World War II pilot and a war hero. But 1972, liberal, anti-war, you anti-war people are terrible. So he lost to Nixon because Nixon cheated. And that was behind the Watergate investigation. Nixon, famous cheater, famous liar. 2018, American actress Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who starred in such sitcoms as Seinfeld and Veep, was officially awarded the Kennedy Center's Mark Twain Prize for American Humor, the highest award in comedy. On this day, on October 21st, 1520, our featured event, Magellan. Magellan, discovery of gateway to circumnavigating the globe. On this day in 1520, explorer Ferdinand Magellan and 3 Spanish ships entered the strait later named for him, sailing between the mainland tip of South America, and the island Tierra del Fuego toward the Pacific Ocean. Sailed through the Straits of Magellan. They said, what a great name for this place, the Straits of Magellan. Our featured biography, Dizzy Gillespie, famous jazz musician, trumpeter, born October 21st, 1917 in Cheraw, South Carolina, died age 75 in Englewood, New Jersey on January 6th, 1993. Other famous birthdays: Lillian Bettencourt, French business executive, born 1922. Ursula K. Le Guin, American author, born in 29.
The best female author ever.
Is that right?
Yes, you should read all her books or just listen to her. She's great. She's amazing.
Well, name one. Name a book. You want me to read it?
The one about the wizards. Yeah, remember the name of it. Earthsea. Wizards of Earthsea. That's her.
Okay. 1942 is the birthday of Judy Scheindlin, American jurist and television personality. Ooh, and 1949 is the birthday of Benjamin Netanyahu. Boo, boo.
Boo, go home.
Prime Minister of Israel, who needs to go away and never be heard of him again. Send him to an island. Send him to an island with Trump and Putin.
Send him to an island.
Put Netanyahu, Putin, and Trump in a phone booth with a badger high on angel dust. How does that sound? 1980, Kim Kardashian, American television personality and entrepreneur, is born on this day in 1980. So Netanyahu and Kim Kardashian share a birthday. That's some good news, I guess. Kim Kardashian turning 40. What the heck's 44 today?
What does it mean, What does it mean?
At what age does a Kardashian spoil? That is what the question is. It's not apparently 44. And National Day Calendar for today. It is National Clean Your Virtual Desktop Day, which, I might do that. You get all them stupid icons you look at, that file folder you never open, get that off of there. National Pumpkin Cheesecake Day. How do you ruin a cheesecake? Well, add pumpkin to it. That'll do it. Might still taste good, but you're trying. You're going down the road to trying to ruin it. Somebody said the other day, if pumpkins are so great, how come we don't eat them all year? Good point. Because they grow everywhere.
I'm always making pumpkin stuff, man.
Are you? Okay, well, you're the one.
I love
It's National Reptile Awareness Day. Be aware of the reptiles in your life. It's National Reptile Day. It's National Witch Hazel Day. If you want to know what that is, well, I'll look that up in a minute. It's National Apple Day, and it's National Back to the Future Day. I'm not sure why it's Back to the Future Day, but I'll look that up too, because I'm curious. Witch Hazel. On October 21st, discovered one of America's...
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm reading the informative...
The official one, yeah.
On October 21st, discovered one of America's first skin treatments of favorite skincare ingredients when you celebrate National Witch Hazel Day. Since the late 1800s, distilled witch hazel extracts have been formulated to many of the world's most recognized cosmetic and over-the-counter pharmaceutical products. I can't read. The effective, versatile plant extract naturally provides skin care, health care, eye care, and topical OTC drug products with toning, oil control, and astringency claims, powering hundreds of essential personal care and skincare products, including astringents, facial toner, shampoos, conditioners, hemorrhoidal treatments. I've heard of witch hazel for hemorrhoids.
Yeah.
Personal cleansing and postpartum care. Yes, so witch hazel, your anti-inflammatory, itch-stopping agent, I guess you want to call it. What's it called? Analgesic. I think that's it. All right, another day that I was going to cover is Back to the Future Day. The National Day was traveling back to the time to catch a ride with the DeLorean and celebrate Back to the Future. In 1989, millions of fans of the movie trilogy Back to the Future watched the first signs of time travel through the windshield of infamous DeLorean of Back to the Future. Okay, the movie date for nearly 26 years, fans of the movie franchises wait for the exact date, October 21st, 2015. So that is the date where
they went to the future.
They go for Back to the Future. And way into the future.
We didn't have any freaking hoverboards, dude.
No hoverboards. None of that shit's happening. Right? But they had to go to a place in time where Biff was still alive, right?
Yeah.
So I guess, again, Back to the Future is fantasy, of course. October 21st, 2015 is Back to the Future Day, 9 years ago. So that's what that comes into. Those are your days. That's everything for today. National Apple Day, October 21st, 2024. I'm before apples.
You know what they say? Apple Day keeps the doctor away. This has been Ally here from the Netherlands. No official UN International Day today, so we'll see you for that on the 24th of October, because that's the next one. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can be here tomorrow for Good Tues News Day. We're going to cover all the good news we can find before the show in a reasonable amount of a show. Not all the... Because it is actually very hard to find good news, so sometimes you can't really fill a whole show worth of it. So you have to find something we think is good instead of that is actually good, like generally. But and don't forget to comment down below what you like about apples, and if you would join the Russian Federation of Global Domination, let us know. Well, I would love to be an oligarch. Yeah, sounds like a fun time, except for when, everyone wants me dead. That's Allison. That's Raj. We're out of here. Let's go to our mic drop moment. This is the, I'm guessing the Australia thing that happened.
Give us what you stole from us. Our bones, our skulls, our babies, our people. You destroyed our land. Give us the treaty.
She doesn't look Aboriginal.
Oh, what? You can't say that.
What's she? Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.